The Terps need to make changes and quickly.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. And I'm also a publisher over on InsideBlackandGold.net. So make sure you guys go over to Inside Black and Gold for all your latest Terps news. Maryland football needs to make major changes headed into the bye week and for the rest of the season. What we have done so far this season hasn't been good enough. And I think to me, and I think to a lot of people, we put way too much stock into that game, into those two games against Villanova and UConn, where the Terps looked good. Everything seemed at a good spot. It looked like everything was going well. We put way too much stock into those two games. But when we really break it down against opponents that are actually on our level, against opponents that are actually at a Power 4 level, opponents that can actually beat us, Terps have been pretty bad. We're 1-2 against teams that could actually have a chance at beating us, against teams that have solid to good programs. I would say Indiana's in a spot where they're at a good program right now. They're ranked 23rd in the country. Virginia, Michigan State, they're not doing anything too special this year. But it really comes down to the fact that we're 1-2, 0-2 in conference. We haven't won a Big Ten game, and things are trending in absolutely the wrong direction for Terps football. And this can be a ripple effect on your program. I don't really like bringing this up, but when you start losing games, when things aren't going the way you want it to go, you start losing recruits. And that's something that Maryland does not want to mess with. Not with that 2025 class that is ranked as a top 25 class in the country, and we got a ton of really good players. You don't want to mess with that. You don't want to start losing some recruits. You don't want to start losing coaches. You don't want to lose players to the portal after a bad year. And I don't want to go that far, but the fact that we have started this year 0-2 in Big Ten play, we're 3-2 right now, but this is the easiest part of our schedule. We just played the easiest part of our schedule. And after this Northwestern game next week, it goes downhill from there in terms of who we play. We still have USC, we still have Penn State, we still have Oregon, we still have our three hardest games, which will I sit here and act like any of those games look like wins right now? No. I'd be lying to you if I was like, yeah, the Terps are going to beat Oregon, or yeah, the Terps are going to be USC, because right now I have no evidence to say, yeah, we could have a potential to upset USC. Even though I said that before the season, I liked our chances, but I feel like things have gone in the opposite direction both ways. If you look at USC, Miller Moss is looking like maybe a Heisman type of guy, and Maryland's program looks worse than we thought it was going to be. And everything just seems to be going the wrong way, and you don't want it to start a ripple effect. So that means you got to make some changes. And they don't have to be anything crazy. They don't have to be anything big time, but you got to make at least some small changes to fix some of the things that we haven't been able to do so far. I think that when you look at it, our team just isn't playing well enough. They're not playing good enough. And so when I look at this Terps team, I say, what changes do you make? I think that if you would have came to me before the season and you would have said, yeah, we started the season like this, I would have been like, it's a quarterback issue. It's not a quarterback issue. Billy Edwards has played good enough. He didn't play awesome in the Indiana game, but he also didn't play poorly. He played at about a C level. And so besides that, every other game, he's given us a really good shot to win. And I'd say he's played at a pretty high level. And I don't think it's a quarterback issue. But there are other issues on this team that I think you got to fix. And also, when you look at it, when we forced 4 turnovers against Indiana, and we lose the game, that is something that can't happen. That's how you know you have to make changes. Because the fact that the defense forced 4 turnovers and we can't win the game, we're not talking about Alabama. We're not talking about a Georgia. We're not talking about Ohio State or Oregon or something like that. We're playing Indiana. You force 4 turnovers, you should be able to beat Indiana. And so I think that there's a couple of different things we have to try and get to on offense. I think this thing where we throw the ball 41 times a game isn't beneficial. I don't like it. I don't think that's how we're going to be able to win in the Big Ten this year. And I know I said a couple weeks ago, I was like, Maryland football is going to be Maryland football. We're going to lead the Big Ten in passing attempts. Billy Edwards is going to throw the ball a lot. But after watching the Indiana game and Billy Edwards missed some throws, I know he didn't turn over the ball, but he missed a lot of throws where I say, we got to get the run game going a little bit. We can't just depend every time to throw the ball 40 times a game. And the thing is, Roman Hemby was kind of effective against Indiana. And so I say, get Billy Edwards' legs more involved. Like, rush him a lot in some of these Big Ten games. Well, all we have left is Big Ten games. But in some of these games, rush Billy Edwards a lot. Get him going on the ground. That's one major change that I want. I want Billy Edwards to run the ball a lot. That's what he's best at. We've turned him into some guy throwing the ball 41 times a game. Like, that's not how we're going to beat Indiana. And I know some of it was because we were down and the game script makes it so we're going to have to throw the ball to get back into the game. But Roman Hemby had a huge carry, but he only got 10 carries. He had 10 carries for 117 yards, and I know a lot of that came on one carry. But still, if Roman Hemby's going, get him going. Get the read option stuff going. Get Billy Edwards in the quarterback run game going. And get it going early before you're down by 14 points so that you're not trying to consistently climb into the game. And I think along with that, you got to get a little bit of more shorter passing game. We're trying to do all this deep stuff. We're trying to get this mediocre to deep type of routes. I think we need a shorter passing game. I know we've run some screens and some of those things, but I think that when you look at our offensive line and clearly stuff wasn't getting open down the field because Billy Edwards was holding the ball on way too long. But when those situations come up and your offensive line doesn't look awesome and Billy Edwards is holding the ball way too long, get some shorter passes in the flow. We got to get some stuff to make it easier. We're not playing UConn anymore where we can just chuck it down the field to Ty Felton. We're not playing that anymore. You're not just able to do that. Guys aren't just going to be wide open. Or even against Michigan State, Ty Felton was kind of just wide open. I warned you guys of this, is that when teams really start to game plan, when teams really start to take Ty Felton away, or when Ty Felton's out with an injury, it makes a huge difference where it's like we got to make stuff easier on Billy Edwards. You can't have all these long developing plays. And so I think, and I know we've had some short passing stuff, but make a shorter passing game. Get Billy Edwards involved. I want a lot of read options, QB power, those types of things, and run the ball more. I don't want to throw the ball 50 times a game. It's not going to work. It hasn't proven to work this year. We're throwing the ball just way too much, and it's something that definitely matters a lot. Even against Michigan State, we threw the ball 34 times a game. And that felt like a game we were in control for a lot of the game. Virginia, look at this. Virginia, we won the game by 14 points, and we threw the ball 43 times in a game. Seems like a lot. And then when I think about defensively, I can't be too mad. The defense forces 4 turnovers. You should be able to win the game. But still, they're giving up so many yards throwing the football. And even Indiana running the football against us, they're just throwing for too many yards. And like I said, play lighter coverage. Keep stuff in front of you. You got to realize that our secondary is not that good. Like Curtis Rourke threw for 359. 359, that's a lot of yards. You got to do something with this secondary. I think there's got to be some changes made. I don't think this team is at all where we want it to be, and I think we've definitely regressed this year, and that was my fear for a lot of the summers, that there was holes in a lot of different places, and I thought the opportunity to regress could be there, and so I think we got to get back to some more basic football things. We can't throw the ball every down. We got to get Billy Edwards' rush game going, but I think the Terps have to improve in a lot of areas, but it's a perfect time to do it. We're going into a bye week. I think this week you have to make changes. I don't know if you bring in different guys, play different guys, or if it's more schematics, but I think stuff has to change. The secondary has been too weak. That cornerback room is getting torched in the back end. Way too many big plays. The offensive line, it doesn't look awesome. Billy Edwards is holding the ball way too long. The run game's been super inconsistent. Everything I can't say we have a part of our football team that looks great right now after the Indiana game. So I think changes have to be made for the Terps. Can the Terps still get to a bowl game? I'll tell you about that after this ad from FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. If you guys want to bet on playoff baseball over the next couple of days, you can do that on FanDuel. Or if you want to bet on Thursday night football, if you want to bet on that, you can do that on FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com. So I'm going to do this exercise. Can the Maryland realistically still get to a bowl game? They definitely can, but do I think it will happen is another conversation. So right now the Terps are currently 3-2. We have to get 3 more wins on our schedule to get to a bowl game. Now you guys have to remember that the rest of their games are all Big Ten opponents, so there's no more just, we're going to Villanova and we're going to crush them by 20. That's an automatic win. There's no more automatic wins. I'd say our next week game against Northwestern's probably the closest thing to an automatic win that the Terps are going to get for the rest of the season. But outside of that, I don't see and that's not an automatic win at all. But outside of that, I don't see any wins that are automatic. I mean, Minnesota is a game that you think you could have a good chance at winning at. I think Rutgers, you have an opportunity to win. I think Iowa, you have an opportunity to win, but still. So basically what I'm looking at here is, can we get to the bowl game? And the thing is that struggling to get to a bowl game, I want to start with this. Struggling to get to a bowl game this year doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel like we're in the right spot. It doesn't feel like we are going to progress as a program, because we were supposed to be a team that gets to a bowl game easily. Like, a bowl game isn't considered that huge anymore. Obviously, it's a big thing, but it's something we've done the past 3 straight years. We've won our last 3 bowl games. So for Maryland football, I think we wanted a bowl game to be a little bit more meaningful this year, in terms of we wanted to get to maybe a bigger bowl game, maybe one that we haven't been to. And we've been to solid bowls for sure, but you always want to take the next level as a program. But we didn't be expecting to scratching and clawing to maybe have the opportunity to get to 6 wins and get to a bowl game. But now it kind of looks like that's where the Terps are going to be, that we're going to be scratching and clawing to have the opportunity to play in a bowl game. And you need 3 more wins. And like I said, this is the toughest part of our schedule coming up. But it's still, I said it before the season. I said a bowl game isn't good enough anymore for the Terps. You got to get to a 9-win season, maybe a 10-win season. But I don't think this is the year to do that, obviously. And so I think that might be something in the future more we look at. But still, you got to look at Coach Locksley and say, eventually just getting to a bowl game isn't going to be good enough. But let's look at the schedule and say, can we realistically get there at this point after starting the year so poorly? And I got to start with this. There's no more saying, Northwestern's a guaranteed win, or Minnesota is a guaranteed win, or Rutgers is a guaranteed win. That's not where we are. And I know that's where we kind of felt like the last couple of years, but that's not where we are anymore. I do have to say this. Northwestern hasn't looked good. We'll talk about them more next week. I guess it's a different schedule just because we're on the bye this week. But They haven't looked good at all. They play Indiana this weekend, so we'll see how they match up with Indiana. But they haven't looked that good. They lost. They've lost some games, and they haven't looked like the best of programs for sure. They lost to Washington. They lost to Duke. And so I have confidence in us beating Northwestern this year for sure. They haven't looked that great. So you would say that probably gets us to 4 wins. Next game is USC. We're not winning that game right now. I can't sit here and tell you guys that USC at home, we are going to beat them. I just can't. And if anyone's going to tell you that, they're probably lying, because what evidence have we seen that is going to allow us to beat USC? USC is going to throw the ball all over us right now. Lincoln Riley in that passing game, are you serious? They're going to throw the ball all over us. And then you look at next game against Minnesota. That's another one where you say the Terps have a really good chance at getting their 5th win. You can't drop that one. It's on the road, though, against Minnesota. It's definitely not guaranteed, but that would put us in good position. And then you play Rutgers and Iowa, a Rutgers team that definitely right now is better than us. And I said before the season, I didn't get how they were ranked ahead of us, but they've outplayed us. They just beat Washington. They beat VTech, and they also beat some lesser opponents. But Rutgers football looks pretty good right now. They've done some good things. So I can't say we're better than Rutgers right now. Realistically, that's probably a loss. Iowa, Rutgers, I think you just want to split that, because Iowa, we know they're a pretty good team as well in the Big Ten. They're definitely kind of a weird program a lot of the time. They just beat Minnesota, so would you say that's going to be a win? They beat Minnesota 31-14. They lost to Iowa State, who's ranked 16th in the country, by 1, their rival. I can't say that looks like a win right now. And so when you really chalk it up, Maryland's going to have to scratch and claw to get to a bowl game. So let's say we beat Northwestern. That's our 4th win on the season. Let's say we beat Minnesota. That's our 5th win. You have to split Rutgers and Iowa. But there's a very good chance that how the season's going so far, and I don't mean to be super negative, it's a very good chance that we lose to either Minnesota or Northwestern. I think splitting that isn't crazy. And then we split Rutgers and Iowa. And then we're looking at it and we're saying, are we going to beat Penn State? Are we going to beat Oregon? I don't think so. So Maryland's going to have to scratch and claw right now to get to a bowl game, which isn't good enough job with this team. I don't think we've done a good enough job adapting to what our team is and saying, looking in the mirror and saying, this is what we are, so this is how we're going to have to do it. I think that there needs to be improvement. I think that we kind of just ran the same stuff as last year instead of kind of saying, this is what we have on paper. Let's adjust. Let's play to our strength. Let's play to what we have. I think we didn't do a good job of that. So I think there are changes that need to be made. A big-time basketball recruit makes his decision today. Will he choose the Terps? I'll talk about that after this ad from the Gametime app. Have you ever wanted to go to a game at the last minute, like a Maryland Terrapins game, but finding tickets is hard? I've been there before. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guaranteed, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of an event and even an hour after it starts. It's a place to find last-minute seats and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's talk some basketball. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready for this basketball season. I love our program this year. I think Kevin Willard has got it to a really good spot. But Maryland has a chance to land a huge, really impactful recruit. Today, he's supposed to make his decision. So hopefully you guys see this podcast before he makes his decision. But it's a very strong possibility that after this podcast is out, that when you're watching it, he could have made his decision. But this kid, Christian Jeffrey, makes his decision today, and I think that he has a really strong chance that he'll choose Maryland. It looks like he's crystal balled to Maryland on 247. He's crystal balled and it's 100%. And so they really believe he's going to choose Maryland. This kid's a 4-star rated player. According to 247, he's ranked as a 94th ranked player, 4th in the state of Maryland. And he's a guard, which would be a huge pickup for us for the Terps to get this kid today. He's a 6'3", 200-pound guy. He's a strong. He knows how to play the game the right way. He looks like a really good player overall. Here, I want to read you guys the scouting report by some of the experts, since I'm not an expert and don't get to watch him play every single day. But it says he's an ultra-competitive and consistently productive power guard. He stuffs his stat sheet like few other guards in the country. Averaged 14 points and 5 rebounds and 5 assists and almost 2 steals per game during the EYBL season. That's pretty big time for EYBL. If you average 14 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, like that's pretty good stuff. And he's a good backcourt size at 6'3". He's a very strong build and plays with both a high motor and extreme physicality. His intangibles and leadership skills are off the charts as he sets the tone on both ends of the floor. So it sounds like he's a guy that is going to bring a lot of stuff that we need this program to. It sounds like he's a top-end leader. It sounds like he does things the right way and that he has intangibles that you can't make up. And so it says that he's not a conventional type of point guard. He's often played with the ball in his hands. He's capable of initiating the offense, but can be turnover prone when asked to be the primary handler. So I'm thinking that he's more of a co-guard, that it's not for sure that we put him at the 2 guard or put him at the 1. We'll see, I guess, as he continues to get as he gets to Maryland, but if he commits to Maryland, but it's a really good chance. It says he excels at playing downhill, playing through contact to get paint touches and snapping kick-out passes once he collapses the lane. He's also comfortable stopping for mid-range pull-ups, but is an inconsistent three-point shooter with a questionable set shot type mechanics. 30% three-point percentage in EYBL, while averaging just 1 made 3 every 2 games. So that's something that does concern me about him. It doesn't sound like he's a top-end shooter, but that's something we can work on, something that we can get better at. 30% isn't bad, but his volume also isn't that high right now. Like, he's not shooting that many shots. So that's something that is going to need to be improved. So I don't want to go back to last year where we had a bunch of guards that couldn't shoot, that couldn't put the ball in the bucket. That's not something I want to get back to how last year was. And so I think that's something that we're going to have to get better at. That's something that he's going to have to get better at for sure if he wants to play really high level for us. But it ends saying, overall, he may not be the most polished skill set or a ton of wiggle, but he's the type of player who raises the level of everyone around him, consistently productive because of his physicality, toughness, motor, and aggressive two-way floor game. So that's a brutally honest scouting report. He's also considering Butler, Michigan, Mississippi State, Oklahoma State, but it does look like the Terps are the favorite to land him. So I'm kind of I definitely want to see the Terps get him, and I think that Maryland basketball recruiting is headed in the right spot. It seems like Kevin Willard can recruit. It sounds like he's getting the guys that we need to get, and he's getting some high level guys. Of course, Derek Queen last year, and it looks like we're off to a good start this year in recruiting. So it looks good for Maryland basketball in terms of recruiting, in terms of the future of the program. It looks like we continue to get guys that we need. It kind of gets the back end. We don't always talk about it, but it is something that is important right now. But it does sound like Maryland's being able to recruit so far. And then also Cam Ward, of course, is another guy that we're going to be looking at to get soon, who's ranked as a top 100 player, 4-star, who a lot of people think he's going to choose Maryland, but we'll see. He would end the class being really good. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Wrestling.